Hello everyone and welcome to the first lesson, Research 101. This video will be part 1. So just a quick overview, we'll cover research and the scientific method, credible tools of research, different types of research, and then we'll do a recap of the types of research, we'll discuss quantitative versus qualitative research, and lastly we'll go over the importance of research. So, what is research? Research is a process of scientific inquiry or investigation that involves the scientific method. So, conducting research will include 4 key things. Research questions. You're trying to understand the way something works or why something is happening, or possible solutions to a problem that you care about. Second is data collection. Collecting information from experiments, previous research, surveys. These are all necessary for research. Number 3, documentation. To report your findings, you have to compile all of your work into a project, a paper, a poster, or some kind of documentation that explains your research. And then lastly, the analysis of data. This is where you look at your results and determine what they mean, are they good or are they bad, and give an example. So now let's watch a quick video to see what research in agriculture can look like.
The Northwestern Agricultural Research Center is located in Creston, Montana. It is one of 7 off-campus research centers of Montana State University. This research center consists of 200 irrigated and dry land acres and is well equipped with modern field plot equipment, laboratory equipment, facilities, and greenhouse space. Scientists and staff at this research center are actively involved with local agriculture and enjoy interactions with area farmers, ranchers, and agribusiness people. They also work with the MSU Cooperative Extension Service to serve the widely varied agricultural needs of our immediate area and northwestern Montana. Current research is broadly classified into 2 complementary areas: cropping systems with emphasis on pest management or biotic stress, and field crop physiology of non-living growing conditions and factors referred to as abiotic stress. Pest research initially emphasized weed management issues, but has evolved to include plant disease and insect pests as well. And as newer pests appear in the region, research is redirected in order to develop management strategies to combat the new threat. Regardless of the pest, integrated approaches are sought that include both short-term and long-term solutions that are economically and environmentally sustainable. Recently, economic and environmental imperatives have resulted in a redirection of research emphasis to focus on crop nutrient use efficiency and water use efficiency. These 2 factors are essential for optimum crop production and quality, and will be increasingly important resources to manage wisely as NWARC continues to meet the future demands of Montana's agricultural producers and aligned industries.
So now that you've got to see a little bit of what research actually can look like, I want you to stop and think for a couple of minutes about what you think would be the purpose of research, why we do research. So pause this video for a couple of minutes and think about that. We can have 3 different purposes of why we do research. One being to test how true or valid a hypothesis is. Now remember, a hypothesis is a prediction that we create based on something we see, learn, or experience. And validity can be similar to reliability, testing the reliability or logic or soundness of our hypothesis. Another reason we do research can be to assemble data and findings. And another reason would be to generate questions for future research. Now I've inserted some examples of what research is not. So, for example, if you go to the library and read a book about black holes, you did not conduct research. Information discovery and reference skills are not the same as research. If you read a book and write an essay about it, you also did not conduct research. Though you collected information, organized it, included supporting statements and references, it's not true research. It's lacking interpretation. So, to be true research, it needs to have the interpretation of data. You must draw conclusions from the facts. So now I want you to also take another few minutes and talk with your friends or peers about examples of more things that might not be actually research. Now, let's get into how to conduct research using the scientific method. The scientific method is one of the most popular research methods. It means to discover knowledge or information based on making predictions, which is your hypothesis, testing them, and developing theories that best explain the data. So let's start by going over the steps. Step 1, make an observation that describes a problem. Step 2, create a hypothesis about it. Then you'll test the hypothesis. And lastly, you'll make conclusions and refine your hypothesis based on your findings. So let's go through an example of the scientific method to help you understand the processes. So, step 1, we're going to make an observation. For example, my toaster doesn't work. In step 2, you'll refine your observation to a question. So you'll ask, is something wrong with my electrical outlet that my toaster is plugged into? In step 3, you'll create your hypothesis. So, if something is wrong with the outlet, my coffee maker also won't work when plugged into it. In step 4, you'll make your prediction. If my coffee maker doesn't work, then my outlet must be broken. In step 5, you'll do your actual experiment. I plug my coffee maker into the outlet. Step 6, you'll find your result and come to a conclusion. So your result would be that your coffee maker works. And your conclusion would be, my electrical outlet works, but my toaster still doesn't work. In step 7, you'll refine your results, and that would be that your toaster is broken. Now, let's discuss some tools that we use for research. Research tools can help us find information and collect data, but it's always important that we're using credible and reliable sources. Now, I want you to participate in a class discussion. Pause this video and try to discuss the answer to this question. Can you think of any tools that you could use to find information for scientific research? Take about 2 to 3 minutes and talk. One tool that is great for research is the library. It has so many resources. Librarians are great resources as they often have knowledge that we may not. Librarians can also help you find credible sources. You won't be looking at many archival documents, but you will most certainly be looking at scientific journals and using the internet. So a library is a great place to find all of these things. Another great resource is the internet. There are many ways that the internet can be a tool for researchers. This is where we publish and find our scientific journals and articles. These are going to be your most credible sources because they are almost always peer-reviewed. When something is peer-reviewed, it means that experts in a specific field evaluate the paper's quality, accuracy, and validity for publication. So that's why peer-reviewed articles and journals are always reliable. It's very important that researchers only use and create credible information. That way, no false information is spread or leads to the harm of others. Another great resource is measurements and calculations. Measuring directly will give you accurate results. All researchers conduct measurements or calculations of some sort. For example, whenever you Google Italian restaurants near you, you may look at the Yelp reviews and compare who has the higher rating. This is a calculation and a measurement. So you actually do this more in your real life than you would think, but it's also extremely helpful in research. So now we know where to find information. Now let's talk about some different types of research. The research types that we'll talk about are all common in agriculture, but can be used for different disciplines and study areas as well. Type 1 is laboratory research. This is research carried out in a controlled indoor setting where variables can be carefully manipulated and measured. For an example, testing the effect of different pH levels on plant seed germination in a lab. This would be an example of laboratory research. And lab research as a whole is very popular in agriculture. It's used to develop new forms of feed, medicines, plant or animal derived from products for humans. So, this is very important. Another type of research is field research. This is where research is conducted in a natural or real world environment where conditions are not controlled by the researcher. Field research is very hands on and time consuming. It's very common in agriculture and biology, especially in wildlife biology, where they need to be out in the elements examining wildlife. So, for an example, observing crop growth patterns directly in farmers' fields. So, this would be where researchers are actually out in the farmer's field observing crops, and this is also very popular in agriculture. Another type of research is experimental research. This involves a hypothesis, a variable manipulated by the researcher, and a variable that they can measure and compare. This is usually conducted in a controlled environment, and one example of this would be giving one group of students extra tutoring to see how it affects their performance compared to a control baseline group that does not receive extra tutoring. A fourth type of research would be survey research. This is a study that uses surveys to determine things about a specific population. People answer the survey questions, and responses are collected for data analysis and interpretation. Survey research is often used in all kinds of research types. Whenever you rate an app on your iPhone, you're participating in survey research. Another example would be surveying ag teachers to ask about the biggest challenge they face to educate the new generation. So, for this example, the researchers would just be comparing how the ag teachers rate some challenges. And this is very popular across all areas of research. Lastly, let's talk about policy research. This investigates the effects of current government or social policies or predicted potential effects of proposed policies. Policy researchers often work with government agencies and is really common in agriculture. For instance, water rights policies are developed after researchers gather all of the current information. Around the world, hunger and food insecurity are also researched to influence policies and programs that can help with these issues. So, for example, a researcher investigating farmers' water rights will research previous water laws and policies. So, this is the end of part 1 for Research 101. In part 2, we will talk about the recap of types of research, study qualitative versus quantitative, and find out why research is so important. See you then.